Welcome to the Scarlet Faithful podcast, and it's my pleasure now to welcome in one of the greatest quarterbacks in Rutgers football history, Ryan Hart. Ryan, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Aaron, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. First, just wanted to start by it's been a few months, but wanted to send my condolences about your father-in-law and longtime Rutgers athletic director, Bob Mulcahy. Obviously, a tremendous impact on Rutgers athletics, and just wanted to say, obviously, from Rutgers fans, what an influence and positive impact he had, and how missed he is by Rutgers fans.
Thank you. Yeah, we miss him every single day. It's today is actually the 6-month anniversary as we're doing this recording tonight, and it's amazing that he's no longer with us. But the impact that he had with the Rutgers community, all the former student athletes, all the coaches, and most importantly, his family, his 7 children and 14 grandchildren. I think that's his biggest legacy. So I appreciate those kind words. Thank you.
I loved that tweet you put out. It was the Ohio State game for men's basketball when they did the tribute, and how you obviously that was an amazing game, an amazing comeback. And you said how he was smiling down on that win. I love that. And I guess, how much did you talk to him just about the changing culture in college athletics and the way things have shifted? And I guess your view and in terms of your perspective in seeing him as athletic director and the way it's changed and the direction we're heading. Obviously it's changed tremendously since when you were a student athlete.
Right.
But what's your perspective on the way things are headed right now?
Well, it's funny, Bob was like a second father to me, and he was a man ahead of his times. He actually, just was able to publish his book before he passed. And a lot of what's in his book talks about this conference realignment, paying players. And really, he was concerned about the direction of college sports, knowing that there's just so much money that's involved in it. So he was very keen and aware, and we would have conversations all the time. And I will say, one of my greatest memories I'll never forget was Bob and I in sort of my basement bunker in New Jersey in the months of, I would say, around November, December of 2019, fighting like crazy to get Coach Schiano to come back. He was calling his contacts. I was calling my contacts. And I swear to God, we were in a boardroom. And I felt like just doing whatever we could to bring him back. And that's how much it meant to us. And then doing that together with him, son and son-in-law, when originally we met, he was the athletic director that hired Greg. And the relationship and bond that those two had, Greg gave an unbelievable eulogy at Bob's funeral. And Rutgers meant the world to him. And like I said, if anyone gets a chance to really read his book, the way he laid out the future of college athletics, and this was years in the making, writing the book, it's exactly playing out like he said. So he was very intuitive, and he rebuilt the culture at Rutgers along with many other people. And I'm just proud to be his son-in-law.
So I don't think you get enough credit for being ahead of the time or at the forefront of the NIL fight.
Right.
Obviously, Geo Baker gets a lot of credit for what happened recently, deservedly so. But not many people, I think, know, or not enough, maybe younger Rutgers fans know, that you had a very prominent role in a lawsuit against EA Sports in terms of name, image, and likeness, using your name without permission. Yourself, Ed O'Bannon, and Sam Keller were kind of the three prominent student athletes to sue. Ended up winning the lawsuit. It was a class action. I think thousands of student athletes received compensation from it. Obviously, being spread out, it wasn't a huge number personally or all the athletes involved, but it obviously was a landmark case that I think was really the first kind of win for student athletes that got things headed where they are. How proud are you to be part of that? And how overdue has it been for student athletes to finally get their share and piece of the pie, so to speak? Obviously, it's still shifting and developing, but you really had a huge role in that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It's funny, when you're in the moment, not a lot of people understood that was 6.5 years of my life being involved in that lawsuit. It started in 2009. We actually filed the lawsuit when I was on my honeymoon. And then we come back 6-7 years later, I think in 2014, 2015, we settled. And what it did was it allowed athletes to earn income for their likeness and the characteristics that they bring that others are profiting of. And I think, to your point, it kind of paved the way for college athletes to try to unionize, for college athletes to try to get compensation, more lawsuits. ensued after that. And then obviously when legislation passed recently allowing student athletes to make money for themselves, that is a proud moment that I have, because these athletes do deserve to make money. Now, I think that things have gotten way out of control. And I watched your podcast just last night with Coach Schiano. I think he said it perfectly. The intent is there to retain the athletes, to reward the athletes for their success off and on the field, but not as a recruiting bargaining chip. And I think we've really gotten off the rails here. So I like the intent. I like the direction. I'm very proud of my involvement in it, but I'm concerned about the game, like a lot of other former student athletes and a lot of current coaches. And I like to see some governing body of some sort kind of streamline this to where it's more palatable and long-term sustainability.
And you have obviously a role with the Knights of the Raritan, the NIL Collective, really led by John Newman, Danny Breslauer, and others. They spoke at the Touchdown Club, the Rutgers Booster Club Football Club last week, as did Coach Schiano. Made a lot of headlines with Coach Schiano kind of making a plea to fans, saying that, we're at risk for, the best players getting poached at the end of this season coming, if things don't change in terms of NIL commitment. You saw today, SMU is paying all their football and basketball players, just as an example. I believe it's $36,000 a year. And they're not even making it, there's no more sponsorship or, they're being affiliated with a business. It's just the way it's even being reported now, so much more casually. How surprised were you that Coach Schiano made that plea? And what has your been involvement with Knights of the Raritan in terms of the direction that you guys are headed as a collective?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, my involvement is in an advisory role for John, for the broader board, really around kind of a football representative, right? Seeing it through the football lens, but also allowing me to, communicate to the current team, to future players. I told John that I just want to have Rutgers have success, right? So whatever I can do to help, I want to help. And it's crazy, Aaron, to think about it. I think Coach Schiano said this on your podcast. His main priority back in 2019, the end of 2019, when he was negotiating his contract to come back, was I need the investment from Rutgers into facilities, right? Fast forward 3 years, granted we went through a pandemic. His focus now is, I'll get that built, and I appreciate the state supporting me and legislation supporting me, but I need to retain my best talent. And I need the Rutgers community to step up with the various collectives and other, streams of opportunity. We need to reward these guys, because if we don't catch up with the times, we're going to get lapped. So for his talk track to change that much in 3 years, it goes back to my opening comments of how much college football or college sports landscape has truly changed, where the priority is no longer on facilities. It's, hey, yes, I'm going to recruit the kids. We're going to develop the kids. But if we want to retain, we want to have talent retainment, we got to pay them somehow, right? Because everybody else is paying them. So that's why I saw that, and John and Danny and others made a very, very compelling argument. And then Kevin McConnell said, Ryan, I think you'd be a good representative. So when Kevin asks you to do something, you pretty much just do
it. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I think it's a great cause. Obviously, I think John and, Danny and them, the Knights of the Raritan, it's a great thing to be happening for Rutgers fans. And then also you have the Knight Society with Eric LeGrand and Gio Baker. I think the more projects we have like that, the better. Just in terms of Schiano coming back, I know that you were very vocal. You were a very prominent voice in terms of him coming back. We're now going into year 3. Obviously, a pandemic, didn't anticipate that, the changing culture. I guess where the program is right now, is that where you expected it to be? And how similar is it, those years of like 2003, 2004, when you were kind of in the middle of your career and the team was starting to show some flashes, but still building towards what ultimately happened, with the program becoming an annual bowl team?
Right. Yeah, there's so many similarities. I see his first 2 years, like 03-04 season for me and the guys that I played with back in his first stint. And I see potentially this season being like the 05 season, where we get to that next level and we earn a traditional bowl berth. And I think there's enough games out there, but we need to take a step back as Rutgers fans, realize how difficult this conference is and how far ahead everybody was before Greg got there. right? And I think during the Chris Ash era, unfortunately, we took enough steps back that it really was a monumental task to first and foremost develop the culture, recruit the right players, develop the right players, retain offensive coordinator for more than 1 year, right? So there was a lot of factors. And by the way, you're playing 5 to 6, maybe 7 top 25 schools every single year. It's very difficult for any rebuilding process, but I would say that the SEC West and the Big Ten East are by far the toughest divisions in all of college football. And you're trying to tell someone coming into basically a rebuild during a pandemic to figure this out. So I like the progress. I think as an offensive guy, I would like to see some more firepower this year. I think all the fans would. I think defense and special teams have developed, but I think we need to score points to win games, right? And I think there's enough winnable games on the calendar this year. And you're probably going to ask me about the quarterback battle, but I'm going to tell you right now, Aaron, it's going to come down to the quarterback. It really is. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's going to come down to either Gavin taking the reins and running with it, or it's going to be Noah significantly elevating his game. But more importantly, we need these guys to stay healthy and the offensive line to stay healthy, because I can tell you that when I started to my senior year, we significantly grew our offensive line. We got better and better every year. Greg hit the transfer portal. He developed guys. By my senior year, we had guys that played in the NFL that were on that offensive line. And I think we can eventually get to that point as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think I do see similarities back to then as well. I remember that Michigan State game. I came down from Boston for that game. And obviously that was a huge moment. I feel like that was the first moment where we're like, wow, this is headed in the right direction to Rutgers being a national player. In terms of the quarterback competition, obviously, your third most passing yards, third most TDs in school history. Mike Teal's number 1 came in as a freshman your senior year. You guys split time at throughout that season. What was that like for you in terms of being kind of the elder statesman, having the younger guy come in, and what similarities do you see that with the dynamic of Vedral versus Wimsatt?
I mean, I'll be honest, it was incredibly difficult. I think that, I was at that point starting, 40 games or something straight. I mean, to go from being the guy and being the leader to getting barely any reps in practice and then not playing at all in the games was probably one of the darkest points of my life. But what it allowed me to do is understand adversity. You're going to face that every single challenge that you have. And I was able to mentally stay prepared. I was able to take advantage of a situation where Mike was struggling, got hurt. And then one of my greatest college football memories is coming in the second half of UConn, our senior year, and bringing the team back for a win, and then winning several games after and going to the bowl game and having one of the greatest memories of playing in a bowl game for the first time in 27 years of Rutgers history. So it was an incredibly difficult challenge, but I think I was trained well enough to overcome adversity. We had some good coaching. We had some really good players. And I remember those attributes that I utilized in college that I use every single day today with my personal life with my family, and then obviously my professional life and my career life.
And just in terms of, maybe what's, Noah Vedral coming from Nebraska, he's, a class act. I think, honestly, is underappreciated by fans in terms of what he's meant to bring stability to the program. Obviously has had some limitations performance-wise, but overall, he seems like he has a great attitude. I know he wants to be a coach eventually. You saw today in a highlight on Twitter, Gavin Wimsatt threw like a 50-yard touchdown pass, and Vedral was, his biggest cheerleader. How important is that, in perspective in terms of him being a positive influence, not only in the quarterback room, but as a leader on that team?
I haven't had the pleasure to meet Noah, but I would imagine that he is very cerebral. He's probably very self-aware, very confident person. He knows where he stacks in the ranks, and he knows what his future is. And he's trying to be a leader of a team to enjoy the experience of playing college football for one more year before he starts the rest of his life of coaching, whatever he wants to do. So he's truly enjoying the moment, and I think he has to be ready. He's going to play this year. I'm not sure if he's going to be a starter. I don't know if he's going to be in packages, but to have a guy like that on this football team, I think he's one of the best representatives that Rutgers football has had in quite some time. And I have talked to Coach several times about that. He's one of the toughest kids we have in our team. And if your quarterback is one of the toughest people in the locker room, it says a lot about who you are as a person. So as a fellow quarterback to know, I appreciate what he does, and I hope he has a tremendous amount of success this year and stays healthy.
Just going back a little bit, when Schiano did come back in 2019, I know that, a lot of your former teammates, you all rallied around him. How has it been since? I know the pandemic's kind of interrupted that a little bit. There probably hasn't been as many, physical meet and greets as there might have been at this point. How much talk has there been about this season? And I guess, has it reconnected some of the guys and former teammates in terms of rallying around Schiano now and kind of having that positive force back in the program?
Yeah, so the latter part of 2019, when we're going through the hiring process, we were given the opportunity to sit down with Pat Hobbs and his chief of staff. It was myself, Brian Leonard, and Anthony Callie. And we have a script of what we wanted to say. We got input from former players. And then as things played out, it was great to kind of rekindle relationships and friendships with guys we used to play with and rally around a cause, right? And we were so passionate about it because we built this up and it's been a low, and people know you as obviously as a person, but also as the former Rutgers player, and that means something. And we wanted to bring back the good times. So when he came back, tremendous amount of excitement. And then 2 months later, the pandemic hits. In fact, I'll never forget, I told the story on John's podcast that it was my son's 6th birthday, and we took him to the health center on March, I want to say 8th, for a visit with Coach Schiano. We met a lot of the players, locker room, everything. A week later, the pandemic started. This was March of 2020. And we were the last visitors probably to see the Hale Center before everything shut down. So it's been a long time coming. I saw a great, kind of fan appreciation event last Sunday for Fan Fest. That was great to see everybody come back for the first time since Schiano's been back. And then Greg recently on June 13th had his first golf outing since he's come back as the head coach. And I live in Florida now with my family, but we flew up and it was great. I played golf with Anthony Callie, Sam Johnson, Brian Leonard, saw Joe Giacobbe, Sean Tucker, who's back, which is great. And then there was literally 12 of us, and we took a picture with Coach, and it was a lot of fun memories. And, it just spending time with, it felt like a flashback to the mid 2000s where all of the people that we had in the building, the Hill Center, are back now. The support staff, the coaches, the alumni are back, the coaching staff's back. It truly feels like a family again. And I know the success and the wins will pay out. And I'm excited for the future.
And how important is it to you guys in terms of having former players now on the staff? A lot are in support roles, but also just kind of growing, the way Schiano is kind of growing and developing former players as coaches. In terms of the continuity and keeping, I guess, the past, in the forefront as well in terms of where this program's headed.
Well, it's critical because the majority of the roster has not been to a bowl game. They haven't had a tremendous amount of success. So what he was trying to do is surround himself with people that have bought into his culture in the past, have had success after college or had success on the college football field, that can engrave into these kids, guys. If we keep working hard, if we keep chopping, we are going to make bowl games. We are going to win big time games. And then when I asked him when he was hired, what can I do to help? And he said, I just want you to be around the guys. I want you to talk about your stories. I want you to tell all your sacrifices, all the big wins. I want you to share or knowledge transfer to these guys because they've been beaten down so bad. We need to bring them up. We need to change the culture. And I think that's what he's doing by making a lot of former player hires, bringing back former coaches, support staff. Bringing Sean Tucker in a leadership role in administration, I think, is going to be huge and pay off dividends for years to come. So I think what he was trying to do is, hey, let's replicate the success by bringing back the people that help build the success. And that's what he's done.
And you obviously are a Florida guy, and now you're back there, but you were one of the many Florida recruits that Schiano brought to help rebuild the program. He's dipped back into Florida quite a bit in his second tenure. How important is Florida as a whole, just in terms of recruiting region for this program?
It's critical. It was critical for his first go around. And I think a lot of the players helped build the program in the early 2000s, and they were able to consistently recruit in Florida. It's hit a low while he left, but he understands if we can dominate the state of Rutgers, which is obviously the New Jersey and the surrounding states, and then do really, really well in South Florida and Central Florida, that's a recipe for success. Because I tell you what, every other college is down here recruiting. There's a plethora of players. We're down here playing year-round. We have spring ball. We have winter football. We have everything that you can imagine. And what's great for the players down here, and when I tell this story all the time, is that spring football doesn't exist in the Northeast, but it exists down here. and it allows college coaches to hit the recruiting ground and actually go to spring practices down in South Florida and find hidden gems and actually go to practice, speak to the coaches, and actually put some of these kids through private workouts to see what they don't necessarily see on game film, and then they can kind of develop a rapport with them. So it's a huge advantage that I think not a lot of states offer, and especially in the Northeast due to the weather situation, but it worked for him in the past. Again, it's going to rinse and repeat it because it has worked again.
Couple more for you. Just obviously, you being a Rutgers grad and your influence with Bob Mulcahy, how happy and proud are you to see Rutgers as a whole, as an athletic department, be successful now? The year we just had in the Big Ten, making so many NCAA tournaments, a lot of different programs having success now, finally, after a lot of years joining the conference, really struggling, starting to really make headway now.
It meant the world to him. It was funny because there was, towards the end, he couldn't do a lot, but we would hang out and watch a lot of basketball. We would watch lacrosse, girls soccer, and Pat Hobbs would check on them from time to time, and that was very gracious of Pat. And I think what the Rutgers community has really done is made sure that Bob is always going to be an extension of the Rutgers community long after he has left us. And he passed away very peacefully, knowing that he's left a legacy of his family, Rutgers, other things in his life that meant a lot to him. But to see the success of all the sports and to see that before he was able to pass meant the world to him. I did say to him back in February that we have a critical football season coming up. So if you could put in a good word for the big guy, we need a couple breaks this year. So he got a kick out of that, and let's see if it works.
And last one for you, really just your perspective. Now that Rutgers is obviously ascending in the Big Ten, a lot has come together facilities-wise. Obviously, NIL, there's work to do. But with the changing college landscape, I asked Pat Hobbs about, how does Rutgers has a seat at the table right now? How do we keep that seat at the table 10 years, 15 years from now? And his answer, I thought was great, was, he fully expects Rutgers to become a superpower in college sports, that he thinks that Rutgers is poised to take that next step. From your perspective, do you see it that way? And how concerned, I guess, are you as a fellow Rutgers fan, Rutgers alum, in terms of keeping that seat at the table long term?
I think that basketball and the Olympic sports have, as Coach Schiano has said this, have truly lifted up the perspective and the perception of Rutgers as a whole, right? And I think that what football can do, if we can have sustained success and become one of the elites, can only take it to the whole next level, right? And the other sports are great. Basketball is tremendous, but we all know that football has to be the breadwinner when it comes to being viewed as an elite Big Ten school. The good thing is this: we have state legislation buy-in. We have the support of the alumni. We're primed in a great conference. This new TV contract is going to take us through the roof here soon. And I think that if we can put the product on the football field, the basketball field, I think the Olympic sports will have continued success. I really like where the leadership is going between Pat Hobbs, President Holloway, and the investments they continue to make, hiring good people. I'm excited. And as a former alumni, I couldn't be more proud of the university and the direction they're going.
Ryan Hart, one of the best quarterbacks in Rutgers history, played a huge role in several different ways for Rutgers and college sports. Really appreciate your time. It was great to have you, and really thank you for all you've done for Rutgers football.
Thanks, Aaron. And I want to say real quick, congratulations on all your success. Your site's fantastic. I was going through it the last few days. Best wishes, my friend, and let's keep in touch.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, buddy.